Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Vibing with Grayy. I'm really grateful for the love that you've been showing to the podcast. I'm grateful that you are learning since we're in a learning journey together. And as usual, my show is always on educating, inspiring, and transforming. And as for today's episode, we're going to talk about personal development. I have a really reputable coach who's going to take us through it, understand what we need to let go of so that we can achieve an abundant mindset. So let me introduce him and so that you can get to know more about him and listen into the conversation. So hi, Coach Paul.
Hi, Lara Marie.
How are you this morning?
I'm better. Thank you for asking.
I'm really grateful that you showed up to the episode today.
Thank you.
And I admire your career development skills and how you just handle your life and businesses, which has led you to be the person you are right now. That's why I found it fit to host you to talk about this particular topic. So I'd like you to introduce yourself to our guests so that they can know you better.
Okay. Thanks a lot for taking the time, of course, to invite me as well. Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you receive feedback from many people about what you do, because you never know whether it's working until somebody else, of course, also tells you that it's working. Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, my name is Coach Paul. I've had the privilege of working with different corporates, and as a professional, I work with business owners to try to make them do better, in a very simple way of putting it. So think about corporates that are interested in personal development for the employees that work with them. You think about corporates that perhaps are interested in career development programs. And I also work with resorts. Mostly my background in hospitality has given me the opportunity to learn more about, how to manage a resort, how to manage a restaurant, how to manage think of an eatery or anything else that you can think about in the hospitality space. Mm-hmm. So that allows us to optimize customer service. And also I major sometimes in companies that are requiring services like professional resume writing, or even people who want to do that so that they can be able to advance in their career, but also get gigs sometimes also to do voiceovers. So yeah, quite a number of things that I'm involved in, but it just helps you to sort of understand some of the things that I really am passionate about.
Okay, and that's amazing. So we're going to dive deep into the topic of discussion for today on personal development. On today's social media, we are having a lot of coaches and therapists diving more into personal development, telling you to adopt an abundant mentality so that you can be able to scale up your life in every dimension that you want to. So help us understand what is this personal development for starters.
Well, I think it just goes back to the same definition. What is development, And I could probably just think about it as somebody who wants to go from point A to point B, perhaps in their career, or perhaps even in just being able to develop certain moral principles and values and habits. There are people working on their fitness. There are people working on their career journey. So personal development basically encompasses all of that, looking for opportunities to sort of keep, like you use that word, scaling, moving forward. So that's how I look at it personally.
And as for you, has it always been like this? Have you always had that abundant mentality, even in your early 20s and while you're transitioning to adulthood?
Yeah, I think it's very rare to find somebody who says I've always been like this. It takes a certain type of skill set to keep moving forward. Getting better at something requires you to put in the work. It's not just going to happen like, night turning into day. So I have a little bit of a backstory, of course. I haven't been raised in a family where, we were very well off. My dad, I think when I was back in primary school around the time that I was around, I think, 8 or 9 or something like that. And, he had a good paying job. We had a good place where we lived. And then things just turned upside down, so to speak. So when that transition happened, obviously you find yourself in a different type of circumstance. Perhaps you had very big dreams and things that you wanted to achieve. And there was enough financial backup, so to speak. And also just being raised up in a family like that, where you feel like things would sort of, end up being as good as you would imagine them to be. But it didn't really turn out like that. So obviously we were introduced into a new life where you'd probably have to think more about, okay, so given the circumstances of how things have changed now, I wouldn't say we were poor, but I would say things were not as good. So it took a little bit of grit, I can say, because we moved from a neighborhood where things were relatively peaceful into what people maybe might refer to as the ghetto. I don't know if they would call it that now. But, the society, the people around you, speaking about personal development, the people around you can determine what kind of person you become, the association that you have. So I got into some very mixed up association, for lack of a better word. And I didn't really, the direction of my life was taking then wasn't exactly what I thought it would be. And so I got to a stage even where I think some of my classmates were being arrested, some of them coming to school with handcuffs, just to do their examinations and stuff like that. So my mindset wasn't always like it is today. And I still have some work to do. There's a couple of things that I still work on from day to day because there are challenges that I face, obviously being human. So I think it's a progressive movement, just keep working on your mindset because that's where it starts. If you think about the mentality that you've just spoken about, scarcity mentality as opposed to, or maybe as compared to an abundance mindset. And maybe as we continue, we'll get to define it much more, but that's just the kind of mindset that perhaps in general, you find somebody who always believes that sometimes these opportunities are not for me. I'm not the kind of person. People like me don't make it out of the hood or something like that. And then there's somebody else who might think learning about something can make me get better at it. And I'll also mention a study that was actually covered that helped many to see that there are kids who've been brought up in a situation where they've been taught that if you actually believe that, education, academic performance, it's not about whether it was predetermined or something like that. That school isn't for you, or school is for some people who are smarter than me. They end up actually doing much better than the kids who believe that, school's not for me. But there are people who believe that we can keep learning about things that can help us to actually do better, whether it's in your career path or anything else that you aspire to do. Yeah.
Yes, I actually second what you have said on how life gets to flip at you, because actually something similar happened to me. And actually it happened when I was still a little girl. So transitioning was, actually I find it too difficult because I still have some childhood trauma that I'm trying to unpack right now. And as you have said, that people around you, your associates, really impact your behavior and your level of thinking. I feel like what has saved me a lot in these past years is that I've gotten to engage with people. I've gotten a chance to engage with people that are like-minded. But for instance, here where I'm schooling right now, there are always people who have different mentalities. They just find that, okay, I just have to go to school and get a job and that's it. But as for me, being that I have taught myself and I've had mentors who have really taught me through that personal development skills and stuff, has really helped me just try to reason out what I want for my life.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like it's super important to learn this skill of personal development. I even just created a club in my school for the purposes of just educating the students there. Yeah, we're in school, you are reading, but there's some core things that you're supposed to be having, because you can't continue growing up minus having this skill, because it makes you a better person.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I started a club, and I hope that it will get to motivate people and even teach people, because I get to invite guests, coaches, and people who are professionals, so that they can get a chance to talk to the students and have a flip of mindset. Because
Could that influence is quite strong, because you see, there's so much information in the world we're living in right now, as compared to maybe 10, 20 years ago. And the kind of information that those same people that you're trying to impact get access to every day is what either will be detrimental to them or will impact them in a positive way. So your club could be one of those safe spaces, you could say, that they could use to sort of continue to see that this is actually going to work out well for them. So I encourage you to keep it up, actually.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we have a 7-day campaign on suicide prevention, and it's ongoing, and I hope that people are following, because I've been posting about it, and I do hope it will save a life.
Yeah, mental health is quite important in the time period that we're living in. I know a lot of people are struggling with it.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So diving back into the conversation, you mentioned about having a scarce mentality. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, maybe I can go back to that study. Maybe I just want to read something here that I was referring to about the study that was published.
Yeah.
That found that children who have this growth mindset, and again, it goes back to the mind, because I think about the mind as the engine of your entire body. And whether it's scientifically or you're looking at it in the social space, it's true. It runs the entire body. You shut off the mind, the entire body can't do nothing. So when you get down to the growth mindset that these children were exposed to, I found that children who understand and believe that intelligence can be developed, not just something you were born with. They're better able to actually overcome so many other academic challenges, and they do better in school than others, than those who have this fixed mindset. I think you've even witnessed this perhaps in your school, that intelligence is predetermined, that it's given to certain people. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, they don't end up doing very well in school. So this isn't something that we want to continue to encourage. But it's something that we want to try and see, how can we help these people see that intelligence is not something predetermined. You can actually be able to develop it. So another way to look at this phenomenon is there's one of these very good books that was published. In fact, I think he's the one who actually coined these phrases of an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. And he was speaking about the world being like a very big piece of pie. And there's enough for everybody to go around. It's not that, like this corporate people who sometimes might be conditioned to think that promotions, raises, climbing up the corporate ladder, it's only limited to a number of people. That's why sometimes you might even find some managers hoarding information. And you have people who sometimes thinking that their job is short term. Get to school, finish that, get a job, and then it's short term. There's always that scarcity mindset of thinking this can end any day. So many people who are conditioned to think like that, they don't look at the world like that big piece of pie where there's enough for everybody. It's not that one piece of pie is cut off and then everybody else loses. We can actually be able to continue making sure that the pie goes around. And that's because when you have that kind of abundance mindset, it says there's enough opportunities for everybody. In fact, with the development of technology and many other things that are happening in the space right now, that's what makes opportunities even continue to abound. And many people who understand that, that's why you see them being the people who are referred to as the go-getters, because they're always out there trying to get more opportunities, because it's not about feeling like, the piece of pie is over. Yeah, is enough for people to go around.
To be honest, I was once a victim on scarcity mentality.
Don't worry, we most of us have been. Yeah.
Because I felt that some things aren't meant for me.
Yeah.
Getting a chance to speak your mind.
Yeah.
Or having some type of grades, or going to eat at some places, or just having associates who are in a kind of level that I can't be. Same type of class. I can't be like that.
Yeah.
And I always felt that if someone is brilliant, then I can't be brilliant, because that person has already gotten the share of the pie, as you said. So it has been a struggle for me, and getting to read books actually from the likes of Bob Proctor has helped me restructure my mind. And I remember him talking about a concept called paradigm shift.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, in fact, I was reading about it yesterday, about that paradigm shift, because the mentality that people have today is focused, and I think there's a word that you just used, which is very good, structured. Mm-hmm. Our communities are a very powerful form of influence as well. Because the politicians that you perhaps listen to, or the people who are influential in your community, can also put out some ideas out there that might make people get stagnated into a certain type of thinking. So for you to structure your mindset in such a way that you can leave that paradigm shift, where you can leave that and come back to a space where it feels like, you know what, I don't think I've tapped into my full potential. It takes that grit, it takes that determination, it takes that influence, changing the company that you spend your time around and things like that. There's a couple of points that I'll mention as well, that will also be touching on that, about 5 of them, that perhaps what can you do to sort of help you, adopt that paradigm shift that can help you sort of not follow the crowd, really just try to define your own path.
Yeah, because it's really easy to be a disciple, actually. Yes. And I've seen it at home, and I've seen it even in school. You try to follow that person who has let me call it influence. It's not that good influence, but that person has social greatness, social media greatness.
It's respected or celebrated, let's use that word.
Yeah, you're celebrated, but what you're doing isn't that good.
Yeah.
So people feel like you are the one who's right, you're the one on the right track, whether it's doing drugs, whether it's dressing like
positive or negative,
being messy. And I feel like many people are becoming a victim to that. We're being sucked into this social media negativity that we are trying to maintain this image that's not right for us. You're trying to follow someone else, but in real sense, you can't be another person. It took me a lot of time to notice that it's me. Why am I trying to be another person? Why am I trying to dress like another person or talk like another person, be that person? It really took a toll in my life, and that's why I had months of therapy. And at least for now, I see the progress, since I feel like I'm the one in charge of my life. Yeah. And I can get to sculpture it on however I want it to be. And I'm the one who gets to have the decision to make the right decisions on myself and trying to be a better person. Since I feel like being a disciple, being a follower, you can't be another person because the other person is taken. I can't try. Coach Paul, I can't try to talk like you, to be like you.
No, I wouldn't want that, actually. Like I said, you have to define your own path.
Yes.
Every person's mind is unique in its own way. Whether you're differently abled or you have other different types of skills and stuff like that, you got to think more about my identity. What is it that I want to do with my life that will be not just impactful to other people, but really think more about how this is going to also help you as a person. And I think most of the people that I've decided to listen to, decided to, pay attention to, it's the same thing that you're saying. It's sort of like your own therapy of deciding, what, this is not healthy for me. And I need to make a decision now, because if I don't, then I'm, again, going to be that disciple that just kind of follows the crowd. So I started listening to podcasts, for example, like what you're doing right now. You choose the kind of content that you want to consume, because your mind is like a sponge, but it also has a limit of how much you can take in. So if you focus more attention on what you want to, like you say, pave the way for your success, then you really need to make that decision of, you know what, I'm going to leave what other people are doing. I'm going to focus more on what I feel is going to be healthy, is going to be productive for me. And one of the things I can suggest is, number one, focus on what you have. What does that mean? Well, sometimes you have these people, I'm just going to give a scenario where some people might be thinking thoughts like this. There aren't enough good jobs out there for me. And I know a lot of students out there think about it that way. I was at one of the schools. It's a university in Kenya. And we were doing sort of like a coaching session for them and I remember asking one of the students in the incubation lab, so once you're done with this, the tech course that she was taking up, what do you want to do? He said, I want to go work for company so-and-so. It's a big company. Mm-hmm. It sucked a lot of people during COVID, but it's a very big tech company. And I said, haven't you thought about starting your own? Because you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom, but you're thinking about going to get a job. What about using that mindset or perhaps that skill set that you've acquired here, the knowledge, all that money that you've invested in your university education, and just use that instead of thinking there are not enough good jobs out there for me? What can I do? Focusing on what you have. What can I do? What am I able to create out of this? So other people who might think I don't have enough transferable skills, I speak about that a lot because there's a lot of things that I personally do right now. I'm not employed, that are, as a result, that ensue out of all the other transferable skills that I've acquired from the industries that I've worked in. I give you an example. There are things that I have learned for maybe about 10 years in management that I can use to go help another company know how to manage their company better, that can help them, for example, to increase their productivity in their departments, whether it's in hospitality or any other business that is correlated to that. Transferable skills. Mm-hmm. So if you think that you don't have enough of that, maybe you need to sit down and do a writing and focus on what you have. What is it that I have as a skill that can be transferred into another industry where I don't necessarily have to get a job, or I can get a job, and then I can use those skills to build on my career, what I want to become? Or somebody else who might say, there's so much competition out there. Mm-hmm. Who am I kidding? Never going to be able to do this. So that kind of mentality, that's why we're saying here, focusing on what you have can really help you to be able to change that mindset and probably start thinking about what is it that limits me right now? And I can get that speed bump away from me. And then I can go through with the transferable skills or anything else that I could be able to use and hone right now to move or make the next move in my career, or maybe my education or anything else that you're doing right now, even in personal development. That's one thing that I can recommend.
Yeah, the transferable skills. So for instance, if someone is in school and studying computer science, so that's a skill you can use to develop a company on your own, right?
Yeah, computer skills. I mean, you have to be a little bit more focused, though, on what you want to really establish, because you might have skills that other people do have. So have a competitive advantage to it. Yes, there's competition out there, but what can you actually focus on? And I always mention this as a very important baseline that you can use to determine what you want to do. Mm-hmm. If you want to stay profitable, if you want to stay relevant in the thing that you're doing, always focus on the solution people are looking for. Don't think about so much about, I want to sell this product. I want to sell this service. I want to do A, B, C, D. So what problem are you solving? Maybe somebody else has already solved that problem. Mm-hmm. So how can you fine tune your skill set, your transferable skills to really solve a problem? So if you look around you and you study the environment that you're in, you'll find that problem. And then you can be able to use your transferable skills to solve that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I feel like it's really something juicy that the audience needs to hear right now. Having that observational eye that you note the type of problems that you have in your society. You can even, just your society or the community that you belong to, you just notice a problem and find a way of how you can learn to solve it. And that's how, actually, it can be profitable. You can use it as an advantage of getting your financial skills getting high. Yeah. So do you have other points on how to deal with this?
Maybe something else, because we talked about a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset. We spoke about the environment that you're in. Maybe we can now try to sort of delve deeper into that. And maybe I can give an example of a situation where you can either create a win-win situation for yourself and the person that perhaps you're working with, because there are certain places where, I think I was looking at an article yesterday that was talking about a company like Walmart in the US that was investing more than $1 billion in training and development, and spending this much money in career training, for example. It's a win-win situation for both the company and the employees. So it's not more of looking for climbing up the ladder, but it's sort of like a lattice growth, so people could be trained in such a way that they can rotate in different departments, for example. And then that creates sort of like a lattice-shaped career growth path for most of them. And then this would now reduce the kind of, friction that's usually there in a corporate, for example, that would be getting people cramming up for opportunities and saying, I got to be the next, manager of da-da-da-da-da. Well, there's enough opportunities for, like we said, there's a big piece of pie for everybody. So that would sort of create a good environment that you can grow with. Now, further into the area where you'd be thinking about the association that you're with, there's a famous adage, of course, that talks about, show me the kind of people that you hang out with, and of course, I'll tell you the kind of person that you are. So was it Tony Robbins, if I'm not wrong, that said the quality of a person's life is often the direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. So the kind of people that you hang around with can set very low expectations. And sometimes even what they say can make you feel like you can't do certain things. Mm-hmm. So you got to be very careful about the people that you hang around with, because they might not be willing to walk the same road that you're trying to walk. So an opportunity that might show up maybe in your life might be kicked down by somebody who thinks they want to get to that before you do. So always look to surround yourself with the kind of people that will hold your hand and support you as you support them. It's almost like a mutually beneficial agreement where you can decide the kind of people that you want to spend time with. The kind of programs that you watch can also play a very big number on your mental health. So choose what surrounds you. And of course, that allows you to also see, bad association spoils useful habits. Conversely, good association can build on those useful habits. So that's one thing that I would also recommend as well.
And when do you know it's time to let go of friends who are liabilities, especially if you've known them for a long time? Yeah. But to them, you are not, there's always this aspect of probably a friend sees you as a competition, and probably he or she thinks that they are better than you, so you can never achieve this if I haven't achieved it. So when is the proper time to let go of that liability knowing very well that you're going to lose that friendship that you value so much?
It goes back to the mindset, because if we're talking about an actual friend, not so much entertainment or maybe what you expose yourself to, because that can also be a friend, the people that you watch and things like that. So most of us know when to let go. We just kind of ignore the signs and we decide, you know what, maybe I can hang in there for a little bit longer. But you can let go. You can let go, because one of the things it goes back to is, what have you decided you want to do with your own life? It's not a mutual decision where, for example, like you have a couple, and that's a different situation where perhaps one of you is a toxic partner. But when you're talking about you as a youth just developing to a point where you want to make sure that your life takes a certain type of direction, well, you got to start with that. My mindset, is it made up? Because if you've made up your mindset about something, then you start thinking more in the lines that, this guy doesn't really encourage me when I'm trying to pursue A, B, C, D. When I'm trying to make a decision about A, B, C, D, they're always trying to put me down. Mm-hmm. You can sense that. So stop ignoring the signs and try to make a decision when you notice that this is happening constantly over a longer period of time than you even thought about. So start trying to put yourself away from that kind of company, because obviously you don't have the same type of vision. And that's very important, because let's say, well, I want to become a doctor, mm-hmm. or I want to become an artist, or I want to become something else, whatever. Do they share the same goals and vision? Are you working towards the same direction? Do they encourage you whenever it is that you feel like you're putting yourself down, or they say, you know what, you don't have to think like that. Let me help you do A, B, C, D. You know, people like that. So when you notice those signs, just cut yourself loose. Don't ignore the signs, because most of the time your heart is right. It's telling you the right thing. You're just ignoring it.
Yeah, they usually try to postpone it.
Yeah.
Telling yourself that maybe they'll change. Maybe they're just acting up on that certain day. Maybe they woke up at the wrong side of the bed. We just make random excuses in our minds.
But habits form over time. And habits are things you can spot. Trends, things that happen over time, and you sort of notice that, okay, this has been going on for way too long. Mm-hmm. Enough is enough. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Coach Paul. So I'd really like for my audience to understand more on the paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. Because yes, I've been listening to Bob Proctor's videos and reading his books and trying to understand it. And I'm still trying to understand it, because he says that with time, you can get to flip your mindset, and things start changing in your environment. And at some point, people find it difficult to believe it, because they say that if things are quite difficult, they'll remain the same way because of they'll give certain excuses because of our current economy, political instabilities, my background, home background. We usually have a lot of excuses. But how really can I flip my mindset? Because I've always asked myself that question. Because Bob Proctor says through meditations and observing yourself and trying to change your mannerisms can help, but I'm still on the journey. So help us transition together with my audience and understand this thing.
Well, like, as many people might perhaps understand it, this is not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
When you say something is taking a paradigm shift, it's going to take some time. And I've given you my backstory, just barely even covered most of it. So I would say I'm still on that journey myself, because it doesn't end. Personal development, personal growth is a continuous process. Mm-hmm. Up till your dying day, you can still continue to actually progress. So we've already mentioned 3 major things, I think: focusing on what you have.
Yeah.
Being able to also surround yourself with the right kind of company, and also being able to make sure that it's a win-win situation. In most cases where you can avoid conflict, try to put yourself away from that kind of space, because it really does a number on your mindset. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I can recommend, I listen to Steve Harvey quite a bit, and him and Oprah, most of the times they talk about, you mentioned meditation. So even just waking up in the morning can determine the rest of your day. Because if you don't do something to condition your mindset, the moment you wake up in the morning, it can end up either being a very bad day or a very good day. So how do you condition that? Well, they speak more about an attitude of gratitude. And in fact, many studies have spoken about this. I think there was one that was talking about practicing gratitude. When you pick up a journal, I keep a journal myself, and you wake up and you could be able to write down maybe 5 things that you're grateful for. It could even just be the fresh breath of air that you've just taken. There's so many people that have not been able to do that. And just waking up being thankful for those 5 things, or thinking about the things that you're not very, adept to, or maybe you haven't practiced them for quite some time. So why not just start today? And same goes for your audience. If they could just maybe start on working on just writing things down. Very many people that I've met, you find them talking about wanting to do something, but I always ask them, do you even have a vision board? And they don't even know what a vision board is. Some of these young people, you can speak to them and you can find out, do they put it up on their room? They can wake up in the morning and you could be able to write something down, or you look at your vision board and it tells you, you gotta be in this particular place at this particular time, or look for a way to sort of, if I want to make sure that I have qualified to be a professional coach, a professional trainer by year 2025, for example, it should be up on your vision board. Waking up and being grateful that I've made 5 steps today. I've made 5 steps last week. This is where I am today. That attitude of gratitude, being thankful for the little things that you are currently doing, can really help your mindset, like you say, to shift from thinking more about all the bad things that are happening. You can choose to focus on how bad the economy is, or you can look for opportunities to try to make your life better. So your mindset is really important to really try to focus on things that can help, like a graph, move your mind from point A to point B. And there are widely recognized methods of doing this. And that's why I mentioned journaling as one of them. A vision board is another. Things like that you can write down. I also wanted to mention that if you can incorporate this practice in your daily life, for example, like every morning or maybe every evening, and go to a nice, quiet space where you can be able to reflect on some of these things, it can really help your mind slow down. And I think it was Les Brown that said, when you're still, stuff begins to happen. Because when you're still, you're thinking. And when you're thinking, you might come up with something. I know many people who say bathroom ideas. They sit in the bathroom and all of a sudden, eureka, you've found out something that was the missing, ingredient in your plan. So stay still, look for opportunities to have this attitude of gratitude, journal them down, write things down so that you can also be able to keep track of what you're doing. And if you're talented at something, make sure that you always acknowledge it as well to yourself. And these are the skills that I have, I don't think people call it something like, is it manifestation or something like that? Attestation, or, approving some of the good things that you're doing. It builds your self-confidence. And now slowly, if you want to become a good, for example, trainer, then start working on making sure that your mind believes that you are making that progress day after day. Attitude of gratitude.
And what happens if one fails to achieve what's on their vision board?
Well, a lot of times it's important to be realistic as well in what you decide to put on your vision board. I was watching a funny meme yesterday that was talking about somebody from West Africa who say, the kind of dreams that these graduates are having, the kind of jobs that they're expecting, 6-figure salaries and 2, corporate cars outside my driveway and things, unrealistic dreams that sometimes you feel that you need that in your life, but maybe it's not what you need to be focusing on. So many times you're told baby steps, just pick up one spoon at a time. Your mouth can only take one spoon at a time. The same thing in your life. Your vision board needs to be as realistic as possible. And if you get to a point where you feel like you haven't gotten to the goal that you thought you set, maybe it's time for you to strategize and look back and see, is there something that I can try and change in my vision board that can help me, perhaps, even if it's not the same thing, something similar, something related to that. So you don't have to be very rigid. I think there's a quote that was said by somebody that I listened to, and it said, you can be flexible on the method that you try to use to get to where you're going, but let the destination remain the same.
Oh, yeah. Makes most. It makes sense.
Yeah. Flexible on your approach, flexible on the methods, because things change, circumstances change. Your country's situation might change. Your circumstances at home might change. But let the direction continue to remain the same. Where's the destination? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do at the end of the day? So keep focused on that. Be flexible. Don't be so rigid on, this must happen.
It must happen this way.
It's not that important, yeah.
So, Coach Paul, do you have any additional points on the abundant mindset and what we can try to adopt as we wrap up the episode?
Not really. I think we've covered most of it. Remember to focus on what you have. Remember to surround yourself with the kind of people that support what you do, and make sure that these are positive things that you really want to make sure to write down, like we said, write them down and look for ways to continue to adopt an attitude for gratitude. Every day, wake up, write something down that you feel you're grateful for today. And last but not least, keep adding on to the knowledge that you already have, because your mind is an expansive tool. You can be able to continue to feed it with more information. There's no limit to how much our minds can achieve. So take in the right type of information that's focused on what you feel that you want to achieve. Don't give up on trying to get there.
Yeah, and thank you so much for those great gems that you've given us today. And as for the audience, I hope that you've been educated, inspired, and transformed by Coach Paul's story and all the beautiful gems that he has given us, because we are learning together. And I do hope that you get to listen in to the other episodes that I've been recording, because we usually talk of the same thing but in different ways. The idea of me bringing in guests is that you get to get different perspectives from everyone, because everyone always has and everything to say. They have their personal truth. So whatever Coach Paul says, it's quite different to what another guest will have to say in the next episode, but they're all true gems. So I hope you've learned, and I also want you to subscribe to the channel so that you can get more juicy knowledge, us talking about financial literacy, mental health, physical health, and get to interact with me and my guests. So thank you and have a nice day.